Thank you, Jonathan. So I have the privilege today of introducing our speaker, who, given our club's efforts to promote workforce development through scholarships for training and education, and also working with Midcoast School of Technology to develop coursework that's relevant to the needs of the area, I cannot be more pleased than I am to introduce our speaker. So it fits in really well with this theme of our strategic planning for workforce development. So Charlie Collins is here today from the Harold Alfond Center for the Advancement of Maine's Workforce. There, he serves as Deputy Executive Director of Workforce Training for the Maine Community College System. And much of his work centers on the Maine Quality Centers, which run workforce initiatives in collaboration with employers, trades associations, and other training partners that participate in workforce initiatives. Charlie has served as Associate Academic Dean and Director for Workforce Development at Southern Maine Community College, and as the State Director for the Maine Community College System. The Maine Community College System's Early College for Me program, which is a statewide high school to college transition program. He has a doctorate in education with a focus on higher education leadership. Charlie, we thank you for your leadership that you are showing in the state's efforts to educate a skilled workforce and provide qualified employees for Maine businesses. And we thank you for being with us today. So come on up and tell us all about your work. Thank you.
Joan, thank you very much. Jonathan, thank you very much as well. And I'm really pleased to be here. I forgot what 3D looked like, so this is wonderful. Breaking out of the Zoom mold. There's myself and a lot of other people and my colleagues around the state are waiting to do the same. So this invitation, while came with the option of presenting via Zoom or live, Joan would tell you, I didn't even let her finish the sentence. I said, I'll be there. So thank you. My work with the community college, a little bit about myself. I now am approaching nearly 30 years with the community college system. I took a hiatus and did some work with Husson University for a few years. But my work really, and my career really has been spent in Maine with our community college system. I love to run into people who go, you mean the VTI? That's exactly it, the Vocational Technical Institutes. Then became technical colleges, and now we, back in 2003, became the community colleges. With those changes and those transitions, none of the technical workforce training efforts ever went away. In fact, if you were to talk to presidents at each of the campuses today, you'd find out that their trade programs have been enhanced by the fact that we created this community college. People came forward thinking, oh, I'm not going to a technical college, but I'll go to a community college. And lo and behold, they found cool technical training occupation there as well. And many have taken those type programs. So I'm really here today, though, to tell you about our next path forward. We've adjusted to a lot of conditions in the state. Our community colleges are still very nimble. And one of the reasons they're nimble is that we all have these workforce development divisions, if you will, on each campus. What's changed in the last few years is the fact that we've centralized a workforce training function at the system office, which allows us to better coordinate with all our workforce, all our colleagues at the different campuses in those workforce divisions. Joan had mentioned the Maine Quality Centers. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, but we're going to really focus on this idea of workforce training, and how those blend in with the current existing 2-year and 1-year certificate program. So to get set up, I'll go ahead and bring up, I think I just hit this and hit. There it is. And to my folks still in Zoom, I believe you should be able to pick this up as well as you're watching along. So to start, I talked about these community colleges spread out through the state. And as many of you, I'm going to go back. As many of you may know, we have 7 community colleges spread from Presque Isle, Maine down to Wells, Maine. But what you may not be aware of are the additional training centers or campuses that branch off from some of those. So some of those include in East Millinocket, Dover Foxcroft, and certainly KVC Hinckley Fairfield has technically two campuses. Southern Maine Community College has now a campus in the Brunswick, what was the Brunswick Naval Station. And then York County Community College in Wells has a separate training center in Sanford, Maine, which is a little bit more inland from them. So we've expanded over those years, not just the brick and mortar in those major locations, but also in some new areas. The one that's probably most relevant to you here in your region is the partnership we have with Midcoast School of Technology. And when they built the new center, they actually planned to have KVCC, Kennebec Valley Community College, have space, have offices, and that has been what has occurred. The first program that rolled out there, and it's now been a year and a half, was the health science program. And so with that, we've been in touch with Bobby Deachin, who's now the director there, and really working to continue to expand that partnership with KVC and Midcoast School of Technology. So that's something that we don't have on the map, but is, since here in Camden, I wanted to point that out. Each of our colleges serve regions. So you can see these regions can go from the Canadian border down to the Atlantic Ocean. And that's in fact what KVCC has to do. Central Maine Community College in Auburn does, as well as Eastern Maine Community College. And I picked those three campuses because they cover Waldo, Knox, and Saginaw counties. Those are the three campuses that serve your region specifically. But as we'll get into today, you're going to find a lot of new discussions on sort of hybrid education, a combination of face-to-face and online. And what that does is starts opening up a lot of programs for people all over the state, even if they're being done at different campuses. So when you look, if you went digging into our websites and our materials, you'd find we have nearly 300 different certificate and associate degree programs. And I always like to start a presentation to remind people every year we graduate 5,000 to 6,000 individuals, Mainers primarily, that are trained in these workforce needs that are in the state right now. And that tends to get lost in the conversation that Maine community colleges, almost on cue, like a drumbeat, every June puts out 5,000 to 6,000 people trained to fill these positions. And we do that. I think that message gets lost in all the workforce training and sort of the gaps and skills that people are hearing about. The other stat I'll throw out there is 94 to 95% of those people stay right here in Maine. They're not taking their skills and going elsewhere. They're staying right here. So that's another stat that we're pretty proud of. And the work we do for the state is really important. All right, I'm going to do my best to move this forward. Joan had mentioned the Maine Quality Centers. And what I wanted to tell you about, this has been in existence since 1994. This is a legislated funding mechanism that is given to the community colleges to work with brand new companies bringing new jobs and new companies into the state, as well as existing companies who want to skill up and train incumbent workers. And since its inception, 28,000 different Maine people have been trained through this fund. And I'll give you an example. You saw all the attention about Puritan medical products during the pandemic. They skilled up and trained 1,200 people to make the swabs that get tested. The funding for that training in large part came from the Maine Quality Centers. Just as an example, we partner with a lot of different training partners. So in that particular case, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership of Maine was the primary vent trainer in there. We had EMCC in there doing some things as well. But primarily, that was a great example of how there was a quick need, a quick demand. That company was ready to expand, and we quickly turned things around and got those trainings up. And they were trained up in about 300 people, another 300 people, another 3, then another 400. So there's a really quick turnaround in finding people and putting them through training so they can be on the manufacturing floor for them. That's one example. And there's many others around the state that utilize this program, from BIW, Pratt and Whitney, who's down in the southern part of the state, to, and I'm mentioning some big companies, but there is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small, mid-sized companies that take advantage of it as well. Do that. Okay. Maine Quality Centers actually served as it probably actually served as the model for a lot of the workforce training that we're about to go through. Now, before I get into sort of what we've created for workforce, a new center for workforce training, I wanted to point out a brand new report that came out last week. Some of you may have seen this. This is through Maine's, I wrote this down because I never remember acronyms as well as I should. Well, yeah, so it's Maine Center for Economic Policy. And you can look that up. I put it at the bottom of this screen, which you could go to macep.org and find this report. Literally just came out this week or late last week. Here's what they found in Maine, some of the challenges that we face right now in our state, and some of the things Joan and I talked about leading up to this presentation that you are well aware of. The fact that they now can put a number on this, 25,000 Mainers were out of work due to lack of childcare in August of 2021. I don't think that has changed much. That is a real key factor why we have a gap in people saying there are jobs and there are nobody filling those jobs. That's one factor. One in four Maine adults are unable to meet their weekly household expenses during the pandemic. Again, laid off, things shut down. And yes, people were receiving some benefits to keep them going, but we know those benefits ceased as of September. And people now are trying to figure out, if I don't have daycare, I need the job, how am I making this all work? The other factor this report pulled out, and again, I want to just qualify this. This was a report from a different organization, the Maine Community Colleges. What 50% or more likelihood of in-person workers to contact COVID-19 compared to remote workers. This was survey data they collected. This is a real factor that's holding people up. If you take that with how am I going to find, get the skills to get matched up to these jobs. I don't have money. I don't know where to turn, and then match up. And by the way, I don't have solid daycare. You put those all three together, and that's what's causing the mismatch right now in Maine for the most part. The report goes on to offer some solutions to that, and that's not really the point of the presentation today, but I wanted to point this out, that this is new information that's coming specifically about Maine. And I think for those of you that want to read more, go to that report. It's about a 20-page report that gets into the details of that there. All right. Here's what we're doing. And I apologize. My slides are kind of behind all the other technology here. I don't know if I can fix that or address that. But what you would have seen at the top there is our logo for the new center, Harold Alfond Center for the Advancement of Maine's Workforce. This essentially is a new virtual center that the Maine Community College has created with funding from the Harold Alfond Foundation, and the fact that the state, the governor's office split up about $70 million in specific workforce training dollars between the university and the community college. So we got a nice grant from the Harold Alfond Foundation, this new $35 million, and then the community college is matching, is putting that an additional 10 million into that. So we're sitting on $60 million to spend in 4 years for workforce training. And these are the different specific areas that we are going to focus in based on where the funding has came from. So as you can look down this table here, you can, well, our goal certainly is to serve up to 24,000 people served, pretty close to the about 25,000 people having trouble with daycare. That was in the earlier report. And we're going to do that through 3 stages of employment, or looking at this. You may be unemployed, unconnected to an employer, and you need skills to get that training. We're going to provide training dollars and put training programs in place through all those campuses you saw on the map, so that people can get the training skill they're missing for in the jobs that are out there right now. I give specifics of those areas are going to be in healthcare, green economy, trades, traditional trade jobs, manufacturing, hospitality, education, and computer technology as an example of the sectors we're going to serve. Under the Harold Alfond Foundation, a generous gift of $15.5 million to serve people over the next 4 years. We're going to be connecting with existing employers with those funds and help subsidize the cost of their current frontline workforce so that they can stay current, they can skill up, and those companies can stay solvent through this. So that's another sort of area we're going to focus in on. We talked about the Maine Quality Centers and what we call Put Me to Work is an initiative. You can see that those dollars we're going to spend over that same time period, again, in the similar type of sector areas. And then a new grant initiative, as you're starting to hear a lot of talk about broadband and reaching all the rural areas of Maine with high-speed internet access. We also know, and a lot of companies have come to us and said, there's a need for some of our employees to be remote, to have remote work, which actually would address in some cases, a childcare issue. It's not ideal if you're trying to watch kids and do a job, but there is something in between there that works for a lot of people. So we are going to focus dollars on helping employers create new remote work jobs for the existing people they have. And then for folks who want a remote worker job, there will be a training certificate for that as well that comes out. So this is the big overarching plan that we have in the next 4 years through this workforce center that I had mentioned. And if it's helpful to take a minute to take any questions, I'm happy to do that. Yes, right here, sir.
You seem to be addressing technical skills pretty comprehensively. I'm wondering about less technical skills. The plumber, the carpenter, the electrician, who are looking for people to be apprentices with them, who don't, they need some level of intelligence, but not necessarily a level of skill. And those people just don't seem to be there.
Okay, great question. And I'm actually going to address that because you mentioned here, a big chunk of the 8,500 and the 13,000 can be trained up in the trades, specifically electrician, including working with apprenticeships. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Here's the deal with electricians. On average, the state needs to replace about 350 electricians a year. We know through the community colleges, through our regular programs that were existing before the pandemic, we were generating anywhere from 85 to 90 new electricians a year. The union, the electrical union that does training, they were generating another 80 to 90. And then we thought, based on looking at it, there's a lot of other private training organizations out there. They were probably training up another 50 to 60. But what that really leaves you when you do the math is we're still short. We're still short about 100, 125 electricians every year that need to be replaced annually because of heavy retirements. So what we've done is we've already selected 4 campuses that are doubling the electricians that come out of those programs. Here's what did you have a question, sir?
Yes. From our Zoom, from Jack Sanford, what is being done about training child care workers? Yep, and I'll address that as well. Thank you. So very quickly, electrician training in the state requires a journey license at some point. You can be electrician helper without having to do really anything. They can just hire you and have you be a helper. But if you want to do sort of the work that contractors need you to do, you need to have your journey license. That requires a minimum of 580 hours of instructional content, and then another anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000 hours of on-the-job experience, which is where the apprenticeship comes in. So it's a fairly high-skilled, it's not considered low-skilled, it's considered high-skilled, becoming an electrician. The others would be BIW will pay a manufacturing tech person $20 an hour with full benefits, but there's skill involved in that. And so we've developed a 3-week training program to get people with no absolute skill to work at BIW to get them on the deck plate within 4 weeks, both in terms of manufacturing, tech, building the ships, and welding. two specific tracks. When you get to BIW, you then can say there's 7 other apprenticeships they will put you in that will be for another 2 years, but you're in-house, you're being paid, you're working. Part of the things the Maine Quality Center was able to do with helping BIW is the fact that we created a training stipend. So if they have to leave a job that say they're making minimum wage, how am I supposed to leave this job, Charlie, and get trained for 3 weeks to go work for BIW? We have worked out a deal where we'll pay them a $500 a week stipend while they go through each week of training. That it's sort of a safety net, get you through. You can leave a job, get this training done in 3 weeks, and within 4 weeks, you can increase. If you were making minimum wage, you could increase your salary over 40% within 4 weeks commitment of time. That's the examples of what's happening now, and we're going to replicate and extend that. But beyond the manufacturing, the electricians, the construction trades, which we're all doing training in right now, you probably know the biggest sector is healthcare. And healthcare is a whole nother area we have to address. We're talking phlebotomists, CNAs, medical assistants, and we're working very closely with each of the healthcare providers to help us understand, what do you need immediately? How quick can we efficiently, with quality, do the training and get that person on the floor? These are conversations. There isn't a sector. I'll leave this. You saw the sectors: healthcare, green economy. We're getting called by solar companies who are setting up solar farms in the state. Right now, they're saying, Charlie, I'm going to go bring people from out of state because there's nobody here willing to do this. It's not willing to do it. I said, let's help you get them skilled up so that they can be the workers at your solar farms building these. There is not a sector we're not working with that I just listed right here. So there's a lot going on, and you won't really see the effects probably for another year or 2 years because all of these are just getting started up. We're trying to get people back, right? If you've got a skill mismatch, come, here's the training, here's how you get it. And we'll introduce you to the employers that are waiting for you at the end. So I don't know if that addressed some of your concerns, but we're training heavy equipment operators, right? If this infrastructure money comes from Washington, and we hear it's going to, there's going to be a big push to fix the bridges more and the roads, and there's going to be a huge groundswell. I think our concern is, where is everybody? We can design training all day long, but in the end of the day, we've got to get people realigned and knowing where they are, how they can connect to them. We think the people are there. It's just getting this information out, which is why I'm here talking to this group, right? You guys can go out and say, you got to check out this stuff at the community college because they are really addressing short-term workforce training. All these here is not going to cost the trainee a dime. It's not going to cost them a penny. This is being funded through the ARPA money and the grant from the Harold Alfond Foundation, the remote worker grant they got, and the existing Put Me to Work MQC stuff we've always had. So that's really a key thing to tell people. We got to have them, we've got to guide them to where this training is so they can get involved in it. Great. And what's my time? I just want to make sure I don't. That's okay. We're good. Perfect. So here's another aspect of the new center. We have developed the Maine Workforce Development Compact. We have 80, before we announced the center, we had 80 companies, large, medium, small, from most sectors, about 20 chambers of commerce who have signed on to work with us to align their exact skills, whether you're a trade association and you represent a bunch of members of a certain industry, communicate to us where the skills are, what you need. We will turn that into training and we'll deliver it with you. They're becoming partners with us. So way to get this going is some of the dollars that I mentioned are going to come through this Maine Development Compact. These are companies who have already signed on, and we're expanding more to tell us what are the skill sets you need, who are your members, and what are they needing. And we'll work with them to get these trainings up. And when I talk about these trainings, these can be 3-week training like BIW, or they can be a 9-month medical assisting training that we currently do with Maine Health and are putting together for Northern Light as well. So in your region, it's really Maine Health with Penn Bay, and those folks. We're right now, we're building that medical assisting apprenticeship program right here at Penn Bay Medical Center with the staff and working really closely with them. And then we'll open up these training opportunities. And what's nice about Maine Health with that particular occupation, they'll bring them in and hire them. And 20 hours a week, they're getting trained and getting paid. And then they're going to have positions for them that they're getting paid for the other 20 hours. So we can get this done in 9 months. We can get a trained certified medical assistant done in 9 months. And the person is working. It's what we call earn and learn models, very much like apprenticeships. And we'll talk a little bit more how we're working with the state apprenticeship program as well. So these are and we're going to get them industry recognized credentials. They're earn and learn models. And what it provides people are very clear paths to the jobs that currently exist. And that's really been our mantra. When people say, well, how do you design these? We talk to the employers. The employers tell us what they want, what they need, and that's what we build. And we go to work with them to do that. Here are some of the other specifics that the recovery funds, we talked about healthcare, and I just wanted to go over, in addition to medical assistants, it's licensed practical nurses or LPNs, phlebotomy technicians, surgical technicians, pharmacy technicians, and emergency medical technicians, the EMT person, the advanced EMT people. We do most of the training for most first responders in the state. They come through one of the Maine community colleges. Computer technology gives you an idea of where we're working. Again, these are jobs that are currently existing, and people, if they learn these softwares and learn these areas, there are jobs for them. And we mentioned the trades as well. And I'm going to see if this, yeah, just goes to another page. Manufacturing. We have a pretty big manufacturing base in this state, and we can't forget that industry sector. So there will be additional in welding, manufacturing technicians, precision manufacturing techs, additive manufacturing techs, which is sort of advanced manufacturing, mechatronics, and facility equipment maintenance. So we're really, it's not just one sector we're focused on. We are really focused on a very wide sector that's needed in the state. We also know, and your region knows this very well, hospitality is in need. That got decimated through the pandemic. We've worked closely with Hospitality Maine. It's one of the larger trade associations for hospitality and culinary. And we're working with them to create apprenticeship style earn and learn models so companies can bring these people back, have them get training while they're working as well, which is really a key feature to all of this. And then somebody mentioned early childhood education. I didn't want to forget that. There's specific funding and dollars putting forward to for education, specifically early childhood education with that. And when we get a little bit further in this presentation, I'll bring up some our website, or at least let people know where you can get details about all this training that's being currently designed, currently in place, and what's coming down very quickly. Right. I'll take a break and a breath, see if there's any other questions. Yes, sir. Oh, and then Joe.
I was wondering what percent of your community college students continue on to, say, the UMaine four-year program?
Great question. And so right now, when I mentioned the VTIs to the technical colleges, to the CCs, what happened when we became a community college? We simply added what is called an associate arts degree. In 2003, we've always had the AAS, which is Associative Applied Science, trains all those technical people and occupation oriented. And then we would have either certificate or an associate degree. With the advent of an associate of arts, that became the transfer degree to the university system. And we work really closely. Here are 60 credits you earn at the community college at our rates, $96 a credit hour, not bad. And you'll get all 60 credits plugged in attending a university if you follow the transfer track that they talk about. So right now it's about a third.
About a third of the students, if you look at our enrollment, well, let me say this, it's a third that complete that transfer. I would need to dig further how many are actually attending like as soon as they finish with the community college. And because community colleges right now, nearly 64% of our students are part-time. They've got life going on. They've got families. They've got work. Only a third go through what you and I might remember as a traditional college education. Get to study full-time, live in a dorm, maybe play on a sports team, or become a vet. Only a third of the students at a community college do that. And even when you look at that third, most of them are working of that third as well. But I hope that addresses your question there. And Joe, I think you had one as well.
Yeah, I just wondered where you think the people are that need the jobs. We were pretty much at full employment before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I know healthcare sector I worked in was averaging about a 20% vacancy rate,
Yep.
maybe a 40% turnover rate
Yep.
before the pandemic.
Sure.
So you're talking about some pretty big numbers, and I just wonder where the people are that
Yeah.
will fill those jobs.
And that's still, I don't actually have an exact, I've been reading what I go digging every week for new numbers, new reports like the one the MASEP just put out. And so they are identifying 25,000 in a survey said, give me good daycare and I'll get back in the workforce. So that's a big chunk of people saying that. There's other factors that are going on, people. There are people still not sure, should I be out front facing with the public? I've got health issues. I've got health concerns. It's holding them back with that. And there's just this lack of knowing, can I get this? A report I read recently was people are sitting out, and this is more national. I want that job, but I don't have the skill to do it. And I don't know how to get the skill to do it. Or my old job is there. They've called me back, but I don't want to do it. So where you're in this, I'm not doing anything. And that's what we're in right now. And my guess is we'll get some movement. We're going to roll out more and more of this, and come after January 1st, I think people say, all right, enough is enough. I got to do something. And I think we'll see things rolling again a little bit more. But one of the other aspects of this pandemic is we shut everything down. We shut a lot down. We didn't shut everything down, because when I talk to my construction people, no, Charlie, we never shut down. We never shut down. And other industries, hospitals obviously did not shut down, and you can name a number of places. But a good part of our economy shut down. What we're learning and what economists are realizing is starting that engine back up again is taking a lot longer than they ever predicted. So a lesson learned, right? First major pandemic in 100+ years. This is our lifetime issue in our lifetimes, that we'll have to take lessons from this and say, when this happens again, how are we really gonna shut everything down? Or can we find this hybrid remote worker way to kind of keep most of this stuff going? Small example, Hospitality Maine right now is holding a conference down here at Samoset yesterday and today, bringing all their members together to talk about, okay, how are we going to get this going again for our industry? One of the factors that has, at least that I read, was this notion that they let restaurants send drinks with your takeout order. And that was under the governor's emergency order. Well, the word is that order is no longer in place, but they're going to try to keep that practice in place. So until they're people loved it. I guess people loved it. You know, get your food and get your drink, go pick it up or go get it delivered. And they love that. So that's an aspect of this pandemic that is going to probably stay in place. I think other companies are getting really smart and thinking, when something slows down or sends people back into their homes, how are we going to stay up? We're not going to shut down, but how are we going to keep going with that? So I'm going to switch. Oh, yes, sir. Question here.
This may not be workforce development, but just plain workforce.
Yeah.
In the past, we've had an awful lot of people coming into the country from abroad.
Yep.
And migrant workers.
Yeah.
And we're not really talking about that at all. And they're the they've been a big factor in the hospitality industry, restaurants and so on. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, well, I can tell you in a state like Maine with 1.3 million people and in a surging economy during the tourist season, it's required. So, and I know I do know Hospitality Maine is working with our political delegations in Washington as well as in the state to make sure we can get those same numbers back again somehow. So that isn't something I would say I would have a solution for through the community college system, other than the fact we stand ready with the new people coming in under refugee asylum seeking status. We're plugged in with getting language skills set up as quickly as possible. Our adult ed partners are plugged in with language skills. And I would have to point to pretty specific areas like Bangor, Lewiston, Portland seems to be the hubs for that right now. So there is a lot of work going on with folks who can come to the country, whether it's asylum seekers or refugees, immigrants. They can get language skills going pretty quickly. Places like Maine Health are on top of it. They put language labs down in Portland in the hospital. So when a person comes off shift, if they're working on their language skills, they can go right there and not have to go off to another facility to do it. So things like that should be replicated and put more out there in there so that the ones who are here, we can help get up to the skill level they want to be at. We want them at, and they're working full time. I think that's the answer right now. Yes, sir.
In the hospitality industry, though, it's the J1.
Yes, they are not here, and that was shut down, as we know. So I agree. I mean, as I said before, I'll just repeat, Maine needs that. That is a key thing for our economy in the state, how much money comes floating in here for 6 months. Then we kind of quiet down. But in those 6 months, we need people to make that economy work. People want to come to Maine, and they're going to continue to want to come to Maine. We've got to make sure that comes back. I don't have an answer at the federal level. They've got to fix the immigration policy on that, or make a decision that we're going to get more J1 visas to be able to come in. So that is that answer, I think. Oh, I was ready to repeat it for him.
What is being done to address the daycare needs?
Yeah. And again, the governor's has many task force. So again, we were tasked with training, come do this, but there are other through Department of Health and Human Services. They're giving now new subsidies to increase the pay for daycare workers, and helping, if you're out there wanting to start a daycare, they're all ears, and they're going to, if there's permits and things you've got to do to set that up, I think you're going to have a clear pathway to do that. So what they're looking for is some new entrepreneurs, people who want to come in and start something like that. We're ready to help find workers to train them. And through many of the state offices, they're working very much to make the daycare center entrepreneur come forward and get set up to do that if they choose to do so. So yes, in the back.
Yeah, two comments from David Grima on Zoom.
Yes.
Zoom. First is lack of childcare has been cited in several places as being partially responsible for the labor shortage.
Mm-hmm.
He also states that many other people have taken early retirement.
Yep.
And then his second comment is a lot of work has been done in southwestern Maine to get immigrants into the Maine labor force.
Correct. David and I talked together. I failed to mention that I'm on a Zoom call, and hopefully we'll be face-to-face soon, with workforce development, educators, trainers, any other concerned party for your region. We were using the chamber in Rockland once a month. I still host those meetings on Zoom. And I've gotten to know and work with David Grima at the career centers. And David's been a real advocate for the sort of issues that are in this region, and has kept me informed, as well as my friend, I think David Watts, the adult ed director for 5 towns, is on the Zoom. And I'm sure there are others who I work with, Bobby Deachin at the Maine School of Technology, Midcoast School of Technology. So these are ongoing efforts that we don't just come together every now and then when there's an issue. We've been meeting monthly. And when there is an employer saying, I need this, there's a group that can respond. And David's one of those people who are on that team. So I appreciate David's comments.
One of the area that you may be hearing about is this notion of these micro credentials or badges. And I want to just quickly give you an idea when you hear this. If you were in scouts, like I was a young person, they're not unlike the badges you earned in your scouting days. And what colleges and universities have been doing now for a number of years is taking their curriculum, their 3-credit classes, or their full certificate and degree programs, and figuring out a way to chunk down the knowledge and the skills that you need to get that job right now. You know, college at the university level is a 4-year commitment. Through us, it's a 2-year commitment, minimum 2 years. It's probably a 3-year commitment. That reality is not really reality anymore. Like I told you, only a third of the students in the community college can go through a traditional full-time role that maybe you experience. I certainly, back in the 80s, I did it. That is not the reality anymore. We need to have education and skill building instruction chunked down, and this is one way we do this. It is electronic representation of your recognition skills and abilities. Basically, a badge allows a college, a university, or other training entity, adult eds, including adult eds, to say, here's the skill set this company wants. We're putting you through this short training. And because at the end, there's really no license, certification, nationally recognized certification, we're going to build a badge for it. It's going to be associated with the local adult ed, with the local community college or university. And that employer knows you completed some set of assessment. So when they say this is the skill you have, you really have it. So this has been a new initiative that's been going on both at the university, community colleges, and adult eds are now involved in creating badges for people. So they're not simply saying the only way I can get something as a degree. No, that's not the only way. You can now earn badges that talk about your skills. And so it's learner controlled, it's skill based. You can verify it, you can share it, which is really important, right? I'm looking for a job, I'm jumping on LinkedIn, I'm going to tell them these skills I have. Other people can discover you because you have the badge. And it's interoperable, meaning you can use it no matter where you go in the country. And people recognize it. So I just wanted to bring, that's another factor of getting skill training and proving to people the skills you have. The other earn and learn model I wanted to talk about, bring this back, is our Maine apprenticeship program. We've had this for a number of years in the state, and many companies have taken advantage of it. They set up an apprenticeship program. And many industries, you think of construction maybe and others, but apprentices can happen in hospitality, they can happen in healthcare, they can happen in manufacturing, they can happen in all those sectors I mentioned early. And so I wanted to just make you aware that this is an earn and learn model that we're investing more in, we're putting more time into it. And this is another way to find those people who need to be working and learning at the same time. And if you want to explore more, you can definitely go to the Maine Department of Labor's Maine Apprenticeship Program on that as well. All right, so what are we doing? Well, we brought on a new Maine Apprenticeship Navigator. We're continuing to work with groups like Jobs for Maine Graduates. Some of you may be aware of JMG. We continue to work with both our high school and CTE folks in pre-apprenticeship, and then hopefully lead them to registered apprenticeships, like I mentioned at BIW and other companies. Existing new adult ed training programs. We work with them and help fund some of them. And then we're constantly working on improved connections with the career centers, Department of Labor, Department of Health and Human Services, and other workforce development agencies. So this collaboration is in place. We're trying to be really efficient with the federal dollars, with the state dollars, and not bump into each other or put up programs that are similar and it's inefficient. So we're trying to really be very coordinated with our other partners around the state. That essentially is my presentation, unless there was something. Look at that. So here's, I guess we've been answering questions. And basically, I think, Joan, you asked, how can you assist? How can you assist with this? And I really think it's understanding the issues, understanding who are out there in the state working on it, and how somebody might mention something to you, but because you heard this presentation, or you went and visited with David Watts, or over at the Five Towns, or you went and visited with Bobby Deachin at Midcoast, you know more what they're doing, what training's happening, and then helping inform us what's still needed, what you're hearing out there, or leading those people you're talking to us so we can help them, both in terms of a learner, somebody in your community, or an employer, someone who's needing to find somebody. So with that, I'll leave it at that. Mask back on.
So obviously, Charlie's knowledge and the community college system is expansive enough so that it's impossible to get everything we should learn about it in a 30-minute
I
presentation.
could be here for 4 hours.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Thank
A
you.
gift from Camden Rotary.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Are you willing to after the meeting?
I absolutely am. I'll be right here.
So Charlie will stay on for questions after our meeting. Thank
all.
you.
Yep,
Thank you, Charlie. I would like to ask for the raffle. Greg, you have to tell us what we're up to. $467.
Last four numbers, 8828. 8828. Hey!
Oh, all right.
Queen of hearts, one card. Big selection here. Oh, 5 of spades, no winner today. Sorry.
Oh, going up. Today's Sergeant at Arms, Stephanie.
I don't know about you guys, but all that talk about work and college made me hungry. So we're going to talk about food. What is next week? The greatest holiday ever made. So I was online this morning and I was like, what is the number one thing in America that people like about Thanksgiving? I'm only going to do 2 of these questions. So I'm going to go on the honor system. If you don't guess it right, you pay $1. That's for Zoom people too. So the main food, not the dessert. Americans like this the most in the turkey spread. What is it? Chris? No. No dessert yet. We're not doing dessert yet. Come back to the main course. I know we've been working a lot. Ken? Cranberries? No. I mean, yes, but what is it? Mashed potatoes. Whoever did not think about that, you owe $1. Now I'm going to quickly go to the best part of the meal, in my opinion. We're going to talk about dessert. What dessert do Americans like the most? Not apple pie. Pumpkin pie. That's that. And now we're going to go to happy and sad dollars. If you have a funny college story, I would love to hear it, but you might have to spend more than $2, Chris, to tell yours. Anybody have any happy, sad dollars? Online? Nobody has any happy and sad dollars?
I have a very happy dollar for that presentation that Charlie gave. I don't think we've ever had a more practical, hands-on type presentation.
Yeah,
So thank you, Charlie.
it's really great. John's gonna give $1 too for that. Is that what you said? Same thing. A couple other people have as well. Clark,
I have two happy dollars, one for a great presentation. Thank you very much. The second thing is for Diane Lebson and Diane Lebson's book, which I have not had the pleasure of reading yet, but from those who have, I hear it is gold and we should all be buying it and reading it. Thank you, Diane.
yeah. I also have a $5 bill here from Bruce Cole, who had to leave early today. Anybody else? Way back in the corner, can you come to the and introduce yourself, even though you already, we
Hi,
already.
everybody. Vicky Dudera, state rep for Rockport and Camden. And I just want to say a happy dollar for letting me come to this great presentation today. Thank you. Good to be
Thank
with
you.
you all.
Thank you. Anybody online? Hearing none?
Yay.
Hey, Jeff.
I don't either. It's kind of.